caring about the person as an individual instead of trying to, first of all, lump them into a group, oh, you're a franchisee. No, you're a human, and I care about you individually because you put your heart and soul into this. You pay me my living if I'm the franchisor, and I appreciate that, and I love you for that. So I'm here to give you 100% of my attention and effort.
Welcome to Start With a Win, where we unpack leadership, personal growth and development, and how to build a better business. Let's go. Coming to you from Area 15 Ventures and Start With a Win headquarters, it's Adam Contos with Start With a Win. Today, I am on the Franchise Masters Season 2 podcast. This is a fun one. I get into some of my history as well as a lot of tips and tricks for a small business and franchises. Let's take a listen.
Everybody was going to party. I was going to boot camp and did that for a little bit. I was in artillery and radio operator, things like that. I got into law enforcement. My family was, I was third generation law enforcement. I ran a SWAT team, kicked doors for a living, blew things up, saved people. And actually, I learned sales by working undercover narcotics. So that's where I learned how to sell and negotiate, is on the streets of Denver, buying and selling drugs, legally, of course. And then I started companies. I started building businesses. In the late 90s, I built an online company that sold police supplies and government supplies. And then I started doing homeland security consulting and counterterrorism training and turned that into a consulting company. And that actually led me to franchising, believe it or not. So counterterrorism to franchising. I began by teaching real estate agents how not to get killed doing their job. And that took me into the franchise space of the real estate industry, teaching RE/MAX and other agents, women's council realtors, people in the National Association of Realtors. And then Dave Linegar, the co-founder of RE/MAX, who was actually mentoring me at the time. I had met him while I was working police work, actually. And he was mentoring me in growing businesses and being a leader. He asked me if I wanted to come work for RE/MAX full time. I said, sure. What do you want me to do? He said, I want you to work with our franchisees, helping them grow their business. You are an entrepreneur, you're a leader. They need both of those things in their mind. So I said, great. So I started working directly with franchisees, took over the Mountain States region of RE/MAX, operating the franchise business of that. Then the California, Hawaii region, then the Florida region, then the entire US, and franchise growth and marketing, advertising, HR, IT, all the technology. I became the chief operating officer. And the board of directors said, well, if you want to be the CEO, you need to go get an MBA. So I went back and got my MBA and then became the CEO of RE/MAX. And it's kind of grown from there now. I since left RE/MAX about 2 years ago. And now I'm investing in different franchise companies. We own a company called Port of Subs. And I say we as in Area 15 Ventures. I partnered with the co-founder of RE/MAX, Dave, and a couple other guys. And we own Port of Subs. I'm serving as the CEO of that right now, as well as a startup called Daddy's Chicken Shack. And we're a franchisee for Harley Davidson. And we also have some other different business ventures that we're invested in. It's interesting because the last time I was on a SWAT operation, there was some gunfire and things like that. And I thought, oh, wow, I'm not getting paid to do this anymore, because I started volunteering and kind of handed the team off. But ultimately, now when I'm sitting there negotiating a business deal, I'm like, it was almost easier getting shot at. But the reality is that, business is stressful. And helping franchisees, these people put everything they have into their business. And they go home at night thinking, what's tomorrow? How do I make ends meet? How do I pay the bills? What if my employees don't show up tomorrow, or there's no customer to ring the register, things like that. So it is very stressful running a small business, but it's also very rewarding because you are absolutely in control of your destiny and you have help doing that, which is the great part about franchising. My strategy around caring about the franchisees was that when you're talking to them, they're all that matters at that time. Nobody wants to be just another face in the crowd. When you ask a franchisee what their biggest concerns are, the words that they use are me, myself, and I. And that's the difficulty. But they also, strangely enough, you also pair that with the fact that the franchisees love the brand. They're with the brand because they have fallen in love with that brand and the concept. So they're combining me, myself, and I with the brand itself. And we have to recognize that as the franchisor. We have to look at that and say, all right, culturally, our number one priority should be to care about the person that is sitting in front of us combined with the brand. And how do we magnify those things together? Because that's really what you're doing. You're in the laboratory there, taking human beings and brand promise, brand awareness, product, service, whatever that is, and magnifying those things by using a franchise system. So ultimately it comes down to caring about the person as an individual instead of trying to, first of all, lump them into a group. Oh, you're a franchisee. No, you're a human, and I care about you individually because you put your heart and soul into this. You pay me my living if I'm the franchisor, and I appreciate that, and I love you for that. So I'm here to give you 100% of my attention and effort. So I think it's cultural. If the culture in the organization says, hey, they're another number, they're a franchise agreement or whatever, then you're gonna lose because you lose that human basis for franchising and for entrepreneurship. But if we focus on the person that's in front of us and understand that we could be talking about how they're gonna pay their mortgage or how they're gonna pay their continuing franchise fee in a really difficult time. I've been through those. I mean, we've seen ups and downs. I've been in it for 2 decades, and the economy comes and goes. Or maybe there's a natural disaster, a hurricane, whatever it might be. Or, a great example was COVID, when we had to deal with people being shut down. How do you approach that is, first of all, you have to care. And if your organization has a culture of caring, that's how you get there. If it doesn't, you're not gonna find caring in your employees for those franchisees. The answer to this question scares the hell out of a lot of people because as leaders and corporate people at the brand headquarters, whatever it might be, they want to sit behind their desk and push papers around and make some phone calls every now and then or go visit the field whenever. But ultimately it comes down to you have to be omnipresent, just delivering your culture of the organization constantly. How do you do that? Well, a perfect example of how we did that was, let's go back to call it March of 2020 when the pandemic hit. Everybody started freaking out. People were like, oh, you're non-essential. Thankfully, we were able to get real estate as an essential service because there were people in the middle of home transactions when everything started closing down. But also look, RE/MAX is 110 countries, 9,000 units in 110 countries. Those people were trying to figure out how am I gonna keep my lights on, things like that, if I don't have any revenue coming in because nothing's happening. So ultimately what it came down to is we had these leaders in franchising and in business who were hiding, and we had these leaders who were leading. So you can be a leader or you can be a hider. I chose to be a leader, and I showed up on video all the time, and we just continued that. We continued doing video broadcasts, we continued doing video podcasts. I had a weekly video broadcast called Mind, Body, Business, and we would take a word and how does that affect your mind? How do you put that into your body? How do you put that into your business? In order to be a better just human being, in order to, first of all, outlast the pressures that we had in business, but also build a better future for your company. Now, the franchisees out there will model what you're doing as a leader in your headquarters. It's called mirror neurons. Leaders model leaders. And by the way, if you're not training leadership internally, if you're not spreading leadership internally, you're not going to do it externally into the franchise network. And they're not going to do it in their franchise unit, whether or not they're a chuck in a truck or they're a brick and mortar hair salon, sandwich place, massages, whatever it is. If there's no leadership being modeled at headquarters to the franchisee, that franchisee is not going to model it to their employees or management to continue that. So ultimately, it's about being omnipresent. The best way to do that, unless you're face-to-face with them, is on video. Deliver your culture on video all the time. And you see me do this all the time, still. And then when you show up, you've built a great relationship with them via this parasocial relationship that they see you, fall in love with your cause and your motives. And it's like you've been there in their office on a daily basis. We all know that franchising is about being part of the community. You are the community representative of that brand, and you're tight with the community. Well, a great part about being with RE/MAX was that first of all, we were everywhere. And because we were everywhere, unfortunately, we also were impacted by different challenges. And one thing you'll notice about RE/MAX and a lot of other franchise organizations is that when natural disasters strike, they rally the troops. They load up trucks with supplies and water and toilet paper and diapers and things like that, and they truck them off to where people need them, whatever country that is. It happens all over the world. I was in Florida during hurricane relief, and we were stopping by a RE/MAX franchise to work with them. They were handing out supplies to the local community. And there was a person in there signing up to become a member of that franchise as a real estate agent. And I walked in and I said, "Why are you doing this today?" She says, "Because this is what my community is about, is being part of this franchise in this community to help these people. This is where I live, and I'm proud to be part of this." And it was because that RE/MAX franchisee was helping the community, that they were actually gaining business when nobody else was gaining business at that moment because they were helping the community. The community wanted to repay them. That's the cool part about franchising, is that reciprocation of, I'm gonna be with you, I'm gonna take care of you, franchisee, we're gonna help the community, and we're all gonna grow together. So that was just super heartwarming, and I'll never forget that. I want people to take away that they need to care about leadership and being a damn good leader. Because if we don't have damn good leaders in society, we're not gonna have business growth, we're not gonna have economic growth, we're not gonna have human growth. And that's what franchising is about. It gives us an opportunity to utilize those different levels of execution and influence in order for us to build business owners into business leaders and employees into managers and help them see a greater future. How many times do you hear that story about a franchisee who started as an employee and then became a manager and then bought a franchise, and now they own multiple franchises, and they took a family who probably 3 generations live in the same house and they're barely making ends meet, and now they've built a great deal of wealth and they're sending their kids to college and they get to drive a new car or buy a new house or something like that. That's what I want them to know, is that leadership helps develop a greater future for people. And when we institute that with the franchising model, that's where we really see the magic.